refuse to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.
Good evening, Umar.
Hi, mate. Sorry, you doing the introduction today? Go on.
What am I doing? What? That I've just been out paddleboarding on the sea and beat the storms.
Go on.
Yeah, a little bit of a tequila evening tonight. Just interviewed Jake Paul with a couple of people. He's a fascinating character, you know.
Jake, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know he is. Yeah.
He was slagging off KSI and all the other kind of YouTubers that fight. And I do really think he's starting to sound like a purist, you know, that he actually really wants to do it. Look, do we not think he did all right against Tommy Fury?
Yeah, he did okay, yeah.
He's a limited boxer, but God, he's got so much ambition. Fighting Nate Diaz, he's going to have to be the heel because Diaz is so popular. I mean, I've known Nick and Nate for probably about 12 years. And they have got a kind of what would you call it? Kind of like a subversive group in America that absolutely love them. And they've always stayed true to what they are. People will knock me for this, but in a way like Tyson Fury is, although he's not sailing high at the moment. You're going to ask me about him tonight, I know, but you've got boxing's in a weird place at the moment. I'm in a weird place.
All right, let me just say this video is proudly sponsored by Everlast before they get annoyed, because I didn't manage to sneak that in at the start. But there we are. All right, we'll come on to what you were just referring there about boxing being a weird place, but let's just talk about the weekend. Would you say that was the best British performance against Canelo Alvarez from John Ryder that we've seen?
Oh, no, it was incredibly valiant. I mean, he must have been struggling to breathe. Guadalajara is at altitude, for a start. Nothing wrong with rolling your R's when you can. Look, John was incredibly brave. He's a very, very strong man, and he showed that in the fight. Canelo seemed very slowed by him. John wasn't overawed by him in any way. It was a really tedious 12 rounds. I mean, I got up early in the morning to watch it. I watched it live. I thought they were both terrific. He wasn't going to stop John. There's no way John went there to succumb to Canelo at home in his homecoming. And I think Canelo realised that when he put him down a couple of times, he wasn't going to finish this guy. I think John won maybe 3 rounds, maybe 4.
Yeah.
But having John's solid, you know, if you've met John, he's a very solid character. He's not known as the gorilla for no reason. And, you know, you looked at them physically, they're very similar. Same thighs, calves, arms, physique, neck. And John has proven very strong at 12 stone, 168 pounds. And I thought he did a great performance. It was a great performance from him. He just didn't have another gear to force Canelo to the wire. But to be able to carry on going, spitting out blood as he was, very dangerous for a man, you know, or a woman to be spitting out blood, that amount of blood between rounds as well. You could see him spitting into the bucket. You know, Tony Sims, his trainer, knows him really well, but I thought John was amazing. But Canelo's an amazing fighter as well, and I think I watched the highlights before that of the Canelo-Billy Joe Saunders fight, where Canelo had a lot of spite towards Billy Joe Saunders. He didn't have the same kind of spite, and I think if you wind Canelo up, he's a better fighter, and John did very well. He just kept very calm, very quiet, kept to himself as he is, and as I say, put up a terrific performance. And rightly, maybe his stock rose, and he called out Gennady Golovkin afterwards, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know? John's looking at money, he's looking at the end of his career. He took the confidence of that performance against Daniel Jacobs and the performance against Callum Smith with him. I thought he did very well. It was an entertaining but really laborious fight. Vicious fight in lots of ways, you know. But I don't know. I mean, John said it himself. He wonders whether Canelo is now on the slide. John said it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
You know.
What do you think about, for John, a fight with Golovkin, maybe a Billy Joe Saunders rematch as well?
Love to see him fight Billy Joe. That'd be a great fight to get Billy Joe back on weight. 12-stone fight. Big fight in the UK, no question about it. Love to see Billy back for 1 or 2 more fights. I don't think he's going to fight Chris Eubank Jr. That's the end of the year if it happens. Billy will have been out for a couple of years by then, won't he? It's 2 years now, isn't it, nearly?
What, since Billy's been out in the ring? Yeah, May 2021.
Yeah, so it's 2 years now. It's 2.5 years. It's a long time out. That's a good fight for him. I think it's a good fight in the UK. Don't know if Golovkin wants to fight Ryder. I think it'd have to be here. But I'm sure Eddie Hearn could tempt him over here. Do it at the O2 Arena. That would sell out for that, I think. But John comes back with his head held high, no question about it. And it was great to see out there, by the way, even though I think he gave me a bit of flack in his interview with Radio Raheem. I thought Conor Benn gave a phenomenal interview to Raheem.
He did say something about you, yeah. He did.
It was bollocks. It was absolute bollocks that he was talking. Absolute bollocks, I'm afraid. Absolute bollocks. And that'll probably be a headline for this interview. But listen, I sent Conor messages and Tony messages when he was out. Sent them information that I'd been sent by people who are sports scientists. Never called a kid a cheat once, so I don't know. I'm glad to see Conor is doing the right thing. That's all I can say about it.
Just to clarify, for people who haven't seen that interview, who might be wondering what you're talking about, just tell the people, the viewers, what Conor said about that incident where he slapped the TalkSport mic. He was talking about that. What did he say about that incident?
Well, he'd said that, let me recall this correctly. He'd said that certain people in the media, well, certainly referring to me, they didn't mention me by name, but it was clear who it was. He was talking about slapping the microphone. That I'd said one thing in the interview and then another thing to him, but that's not true. I mean, he seemed to be alluding to the fact that I was only doing what the radio station had told me to do, which is absolute nonsense. I've got my own mind on this, which is that I really like Conor, always have done, but I needed to clear his name, and I'm glad he's clearing his name. I'm glad he's going through this process now with UKAD. But I'm not on an agenda that TalkSport have got against Conor. I've got my own agenda, which is wanting him to see the process through. Didn't want him to fight in Abu Dhabi without clearing his name. Because
So at the O2, the incident that he's talking about on camera to Seconds Out, he said that you approached him off camera first and said something. Did you say anything to him, Gareth?
No, I walked past. Well, he didn't want to do the interview, and I commented on radio live. Called it the arrogance of youth that he didn't want to speak. I didn't have any problem with him not wanting to speak. But then we spoke off camera, it wasn't recorded. And he said, I thought you were my friend. I am his friend. But I am his friend because I want the case to be heard. That's being someone's friend, going through the due diligence. I've never once called him a cheat. I don't believe he is a cheat. But this stuff tested up in his system. I'm not into all this he said, she said shit anyway, I think he's a wonderful young man. Whatever he's gone through, I feel very sorry about. And he had said to me off camera, you don't know what I've gone through. I can imagine what he's gone through, But I cannot just say, I believe you that it's not your fault, it's in your system, because I'm doing my job, which is talking about someone having clomiphene in their system and needing to have a hearing to see it through. End of. You know, I have nothing against Conor Benn, and I haven't been duplicitous, which is what I think he's trying to say. Absolute nonsense.
Okay. We saw in the UK Joshua Buatsi make his return live on Sky Sports. I think he'll admit in his own words, has been much talked about on social media, a flat performance from Joshua Buatsi. Went the distance with Stepien. Thoughts on his display?
Well, I agree with him. 5 out of 10. Very disappointed, underwhelmed. I really rate Joshua Buatsi. Last week for Boxing News in their panel of 4 people, I said I think he beats Anthony Yarde on points. Now, styles make fights, and I think Pavel Stepien realised early on in that fight that he was a level below, if not a couple of levels below Joshua Buatsi, and was a little bit overawed by Joshua. But I tell you what disappointed me, and it wasn't brought up in the commentary, and I am not criticising anyone again. No head movement, no feints. Go back and watch it. No feints. Yes, good footwork. I really rate Joshua Buatsi, but I want to see feints. I want to see him open a guy up. I want to see him destroy someone. Pavel Stepien came with a great record. He had very dangerous hooks that he throws. Joshua Buatsi nullified him in lots of ways, but he didn't do the killer instinct stuff on him. He had been out of the ring a year as well, which is a viable kind of excuse, if you like, for a bit of ring rust. But there was something disappointing in the performance. And I don't want to knock on Joshua there. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, with Virgil Hunter fighters, especially with Andre Ward, who springs to mind, he doesn't really want his fighters to
He's
have
cautious.
that killer instinct.
He's
He's a cautious trainer.
Yeah,
so maybe that's what we're going to get from Buatsi now. No?
It is what it is. Look, I want to see Joshua Buatsi. He was great against Craig Richards. He showed his level, how clever he is, how tough he is. And Craig he's called the Spider for a reason. He's got a massive wingspan. I think he's just there at world class. It wouldn't surprise him if he won a world title, if he sticks at it long enough. I just think Joshua Buatsi and Anthony Yarde drawing him into a war, would just be a spectacular fight. Do you disagree with me? It'll be a spectacular fight.
Has your opinion about Yarde Buatsi changed since the weekend or not?
Yeah, a little bit. It's a closer fight. I gave Buatsi just nicking it on points after they go into the trenches. Buatsi is going to be drawn into a war against Anthony Yarde. Into a war 50-50 now.
Sorry, just cut for a bit, but we heard your audio. You think it's a 50-50 fight now? Have you not paid your Wi-Fi bill this month?
I'm here, Umar. I haven't put the 50p piece into the meter, no. Did you get that? I think it's going to be a classic. It's a 50-50. It's a great fight.
Yeah.
Do you not agree?
Well, Yarde Buatsi is a very good fight. Yeah, definitely. I think that's, very good fight. Let's talk about the heavyweight division. Joyce has activated his rematch clause for the fight with Zhang July. Surprised, not surprised by their decision?
A little call from Adam Morley last night. I missed it. I was on a Monday day off. Yeah, I'm pleased they have. I'm really pleased they have. Obviously, maybe it's Scupper's Zhili Zhang against Tyson Fury that Top Rank were saying was being talked about. But I'm glad Joe's having that rematch. And who's Tyson Fury going to fight now? Is it going to be Andy Ruiz?
Well, you'd think so. I think Ruiz and Zhang were the two front runners. So
You'd hope so.
Unless Fury's team want to, if they really want the Zhang fight, they can pay step-aside money to Joe.
Yeah, that's possible. We'll see this play out in the next fortnight. Joe is going to need. I've spent a little bit of time with Joe. I was at the George Foreman premiere with him the other day. He's disappointed, but he's dealing with it as he does. He's very mentally strong, I think. But I'm happy to see either of those fights. But I just want the heavyweight division sewn up for the next couple of months, because I think it's been a very frustrating, very disappointing time. That's why I say boxing's in a weird space at the moment. The misfits are doing big numbers. Jake Paul and Nate Diaz will do big numbers. We just need to get boxing back on track, and the heavyweight division is very, very important to that discursive direction that it's going to take. Because there's all this talk about Saudi Arabia later in the year, but there's a summer to get through yet. Alexander Usyk cannot not fight Daniel Dubois, in my view, and then just, get Dubois to take a step aside and not fight for 16 months and then fight for the undisputed title. It doesn't make sense. But I've said it before to you: money, ego, timing. And that's where we're at with it. That's why all the great women's fights get made at the moment, because they're not talking about tens of millions. They're talking about approaching $1 million for a fight, Next weekend, we got a great one. Week Saturday, got a great fight in Dublin with Katie Taylor and Chantel Cameron. Speaking to Katie with the group tomorrow. It's a great fight. Great fight.
Okay, I think that's everything covered. Anything else you want to add? Andy Cruz, big signing for Matchroom.
Oh, do you know what? I know that Keyshawn Davis joins the big five in the lightweight division. Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Vasyl Lomachenko, Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis and Andy Cruz. I mean, if those two can go quickly, I think Keyshawn's 8-0 with 6 knockouts. Andy Cruz can move quickly. That is an incredible division with that half dozen fighters. It could be the division of this era. And it could be the division that usurps the heavyweight division if they don't get these fights made. Andy Cruz is an amazing fighter. What is he? 3-time amateur gold medalist?
Yeah,
amateur world champion. Olympic gold medalist, beat Keyshawn Davis in the final. One of Cuba's finest. How he transitions to the pro ranks is going to be amazing. And well done, Eddie Hearn, signing him. You've got to applaud Eddie Hearn. Big, big, big orange tick for that one. Big blue tick. Big gold tick for him. Well done, Eddie.
All right, Gareth, thank you very much for your time. And we should definitely speak soon. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening.
I refuse to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day,